from Ryan Reynolds, actor, entrepreneur, and advocate, about his personal experience with Parkinson's-related hallucinations and delusions.
About 10 years ago, two things changed my life. Deadpool got greenlit, and we lost my father to Parkinson's disease. Basically, you sort of know what to expect from Parkinson's physically, but no one warned us about the hallucinations and delusions. Around 50% of people with Parkinson's endure this at some point.
Exactly. It was brutal on him and on me and the boys. And you're not just losing your partner, but you also start to lose yourself. But today, there's more help than ever, thank God.
Yeah.
Visit moretoparkinsons.com to learn more and for additional resources. This podcast is sponsored by Acadia Pharmaceuticals. Ryan Reynolds is a spokesperson for Acadia. Views expressed are those of the host. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Too Young for This Shit. My guest today is makeup artist to the stars, Molly R. Stern. Molly makes A-list celebrities like Reese Witherspoon, Maya Rudolph, Natasha Lyonne, and Mandy Moore even more gorgeous for everything from red carpet events to press junkets to magazine covers and more. Despite being diagnosed with Parkinson's, Molly has continued to do this work that she loves. And as a special surprise, I invited one of Molly's favorite clients to join us for a few minutes of our chat. Here's my conversation with Molly Stern. Hi.
Hi.
Hold on one second. Let me get my headphones on. Hi.
Hey, you look so pretty in that red.
Well, I'm interviewing a makeup artist today, and so I was slightly nervous
Now you look amazing.
about my look. I literally cleaned out my makeup drawer last night. I was like, I cannot interview Molly R. Stern with a messy makeup drawer. Unallowed.
I'm so happy I inspired you to do that.
my
I
gosh,
just started following somebody on Instagram that was like, it's like, let's see how long it actually takes. And she's like, hi, I'm going to organize my friend's pantry. How long have you been trying to organize your pantry? And the friend's like 3 years. And they do it. And it was like 2 hours and 10 minutes or whatever
Yeah.
to like totally read it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I did. And I even washed my brushes, which I never do. I usually just throw them away. But I was like, you know what? I bet Molly doesn't throw away her good brushes.
She washes them.
I saw you on with your other friend and he said you were into rosy cheeks. So I was like, oh.
I love it. And I love the red. Red is my favorite color. I just feel like it's such an alive color.
Thank you.
Perfect. 10 out
I'm
of
glad
10.
I did. I'm glad I did it justice. Well, welcome
look
to Too Young for This Shit. I think it's especially appropriate that you're here under this title because I feel like we both probably shared the same reaction to being diagnosed with Parkinson's, which is, huh? What?
What is Parkinson's?
Huh? Exactly.
God bless Michael J. Fox. That was the only point of reference that I had. I was like, oh, what? Like nobody knew what it, I mean, we still kind of don't know, right? Everybody sort of doesn't really know. It was like, everyone was like, what does that mean? And then everyone would get mad at me when I'd be like, well, I have a degenerative brain disease. I'm like, stop saying that. I'm like, that's what it is.
Progressive, incurable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes people mad. They're like, oh, come on, don't look at the bright side.
Yeah, don't say
be
it like
sad.
that. I'm like, okay, that's what it is. I gotta take a bite and chew it off. So,
That's the actual terminology. So you were, I was watching your Instagram live with your friend Mickey, and I heard you tell the story of being diagnosed. And it was what, in 2022? Is that when you found out?
What? No, I found out 2 years ago. It's 2026. I found out in 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you had exactly what I had, I think, which is just this little twitch. I called it a flicker in my ankle. Is that how yours started too?
Yeah, I had a twitch in my leg, which I totally ignored for like probably a good year because I had compared it to sometimes when I would smoke pot in my life, I would get a little twitchy. And so it felt like it's like pot twitch, even though I wasn't smoking pot when I was getting the twitch.
You were getting the twitch without the good stuff.
Without the herb. It was herb-free twitch. Yeah. And then like when I was like, oh, I might need to talk to a doctor I started feeling shaky on the inside, which I saw that you just posted about that. And I was like, I really felt so seen. I was so grateful. First of all, thank you so much for having me.
Oh
But
my gosh, we
we
skipped over
glazed
it. We
over
just
that.
dove right in.
Yeah, but let me just say, like, I am so honored to be in conversation with you, and I'm a huge crybaby. Don't get mad if I tear up, but
Oh my
you
gosh.
really are doing such incredible work, and it's so important, and it's so like when you posted that thing about the shaking, that it might not be like a full-blown shaking, but like that's what I consistently go back to, that feeling when I'm not feeling great, is
Mhm.
feeling shaky on the inside, which feels crazy because I'm steady on the outside. So it's really hard to explain to people how weird that feels. Like it's such an incredible duality of experience of just
Mhm.
walking through life with this like I seem totally fine on the outside, but meanwhile inside my whole body is like bleh. But I mean, luckily if I'm keeping my medicine, if I'm paying attention and I'm taking my medicine on the right time, I have a pretty great handle on it.
Mhm.
Thank God. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that
it's like
was
I equate it to feeling literally like you're nervous all the time, except you're not nervous or you're in situations where you shouldn't feel nervous. And it's just this constant drumbeat of sort of anxiety. It's like I equate it to like, when you watch we were we were watching Paradise last night with Sterling K. Brown, and there's, like, this thumping noise underneath the entire episode to, like, build suspense. It's almost like there's, like, this thumping soundtrack underneath my skin, which constantly makes me feel like I'm anxious and nervous about stuff when I'm not.
right.
When I think when you put it in that context, people can kind of relate. It's like you're sitting in the dentist office before you're getting a root canal, or you have an important meeting and your leg is doing that thing. And like, that's us all the time. I mean, with respite here and there because of our medication, but underneath the layers of it all, it's still there all the time. And it's just like, it's exhausting at times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely feel lucky to say right now that it shows up. There are different times when it really shows up, but the majority, like the chunk of my day of being awake and doing life, as long as I'm consistent with my medication, I feel pretty okay.
Good. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the thing is that part of why I related so much to your when I heard about you having it and sort of the way that you talk about it is that it doesn't have to necessarily become your whole like I've now made it my whole identity, my whole personal like life mission and all. But I think one of the interesting things, and I will talk about your amazing career in a minute, but I think one of the amazing things is that you've sort of kept on keeping on. Like, and that I think in part is probably because you feel pretty good right now, I imagine. But like you've kept being able to do your career and all of the things that you love.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was probably took about a year and a half, like where I didn't like take it off completely, because I'm not in a position to do that. But it was real slow because I was real slow and I was like, what's going on? And trying to, first figure out what was going on and think, I think I talked about this with Mickey a little bit. Like everyone around me was like, "Oh, your nervous system is shot. You've been through all this stuff." Because I've been through the last 5 years have been insanely bonkers for me as
Yeah.
far as life swerves and turns.
Well, because in addition to the Parkinson's, you were dealing with COVID times, which everything shut down for your industry. And then the actors' strike, which I imagine shut down a lot of your, if not most of your work, right? Like this is like compounding on top of all of the health stuff too.
Correct. Compounding on top of my daughter had cancer for 2
Oh my
years. She
gosh.
doesn't anymore, thank God. Compounded with getting divorced.
Oh my gosh.
That happened the
Molly.
last 5 years. Compounded with selling my house where I raised my kids for 17 years, we lived there. So I would, like, stand in the middle of the living room feeling, like, insane, and my whole body would be shaking on the inside, and I was moving really slowly, like I was moving through molasses, and I was like, "Something's, like, my body is weird. Something's wrong." And everyone's like, "It's your nervous system. Your nervous system is shot. You've been through so much." And don't forget about menopause too. Put
Just that.
that shrimp on the Barbie. You know what I mean? So like
Molly, when you
every,
go big, you go in, you go big, right?
literally I have a journal entry of when I turned 50 and I was like, I've always talked about how intense it is to be a person. And I've told my mom I'm too sensitive to be a human. And there's so much pain and suffering in the world. And even love is painful and everything is painful. But I'm ready, world. I'm 50 and I'm ready now to take it on. That was April 1st of 2024. Or no, 20 whatever. I'm 54 now. What is it? Oh, was it 2022? And that
Okay.
was April 1st. And my daughter got diagnosed with cancer May 5th. I was like, okay. I was like, okay,
You're like,
I
let me
didn't
let me
name it.
rephrase.
I'm sorry that I opened up the universe. It's like, oh, we got a hot one who's ready to live. Here we go. Pump the brakes. But anyway, yeah. So everyone was like, it's your nervous system is shot. And there was all these outside conditions and reasons that we were trying to make sense of what was happening to me internally. So it took me about a year and a half to sort of understand what was going on, thankfully get diagnosed early because I know so many people live with so many symptoms
Yeah. Yeah, it took me
and
4 years.
right, right. I mean, I'm really grateful that the way the doctor told me was terrible, but I'm really grateful that she
I'm
was
afraid to
just like,
ask.
it was not a great story.
Jeez.
My regular doctor, I described the shaking. I described that I felt like I kept using this example, and everyone was like, "You're insane. That doesn't mean anything." I would say that it felt like my bones had grown, but the skin hadn't stretched to accommodate them.
Accurate.
People, right. Like minds are like, "Yeah, that tracks,"
Huh?
and everyone
Yep.
else is like, "What? That's not a thing." I'm like, "I don't know what to tell you. I'm 50 years old. I've been in this body for 50 years, and the body I'm in now is not the same body I used to be, and something is weird and off and
Mhm.
going on." So my wonderful regular doctor said, "You need to go see a neurologist about the what I was describing, especially the shaking on the inside." And so I went and saw a neurologist and I did all the like, tests and she
Mhm.
watched me walk down the
The
hall
the
and I
the
like did the
DUI
funky
test, that's
chicken.
what I call
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
The sobriety
Like,
test.
yeah, like showed her all my moves. And she was like, okay, well, you don't have enough symptoms for me to diagnose you. She's like, what are you worried about? Like early onset Parkinson's or something? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I feel shaky. She's like, well, you don't have enough symptoms for me to diagnose you, but let's keep an eye. Meanwhile, I was supposed to go back 7 weeks later. I didn't make it back for 7 months because the house
Life.
and I had to move and
Life.
life. Exactly. So I went back to my original doctor. I was like, "I need a second opinion. Like, things are getting worse." She's like, "Well, go back to that first doctor because she only did her first round of testing on you or whatever." So I was in the waiting room and the doctor opened the door for me to come in and I like slowly reached to grab my bag and got up and I burst into tears. I'm like, "I'm sorry. I'm just really worried something's wrong." She's like, "Well, obviously you have Parkinson's." I was like, "Ex- excuse me?" You're
Like,
like,
"I'll be right
I'm
back.
like,
I'm not coming back."
I'm like, yeah, exactly. I was like, wait, what?" She's like, "You have Parkinson's. It's obvious." I was like, "Last time I was here, you couldn't diagnose me with anything. What do you mean it's obvious?" She's like, "Well, you were supposed to come back 7 weeks later. You came back 7 months later." I was like, "Okay, even still." And she was like, "I suppose you want a second opinion before you start the medication." I'm like, "Medication? What medication? What is Parkinson's? I don't even know what we're talking about.
Oh my
Like, this
god,
is
Molly.
terrible."
See, that is like the worst story to hear because there are so many amazing neurologists and Parkinson's experts that would just be mortified to hear that. And then there's just so often we have these experiences with doctors and they're like, oh gosh, they undo all of the good that so many others put into the world, because it's just that's what you're going to remember now for so long.
Well,
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
good news is she did recommend like a movement. What is it called? A movement
MDS.
specialist.
Yeah, movement disorder.
MDS.
Yeah.
Thank you, movement disorder specialist, who is my wonderful neurologist now and I work with now, and
Oh,
she's
good. I hope you don't
marvelous.
go back there ever
I
again.
don't I will not be going back to the first doctor, but
Yeah.
at least she did refer me to my great, wonderful doctor who I have now.
Yeah. I always say it's kind of like the dating game. I had a pretty good MDS at first. She was lovely and young. And she said, I want you to lead your care and tell me what you want. And I was thinking to myself, like, working mom, just had gotten through COVID. I was like, no, 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 I don't want to lead. I want
Right.
you to lead. I was like, I
Help,
was a
help me.
musical theater major. I am not even remotely interested in leading on this. So she was wonderful, but it wasn't the right fit. I really wanted someone who was like expert level, tells me exactly what I have to take, exactly when I'm supposed to take it, no questions asked, But it's hard. And there's not that many MDSs in this country, is what I've learned afterwards.
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed at 47. I had my first symptom in 2018. I was sitting, my daughter was, I was going to say auditioning. She would die. She was trying out for, for soccer in high school on the varsity high school team. And I was sitting in the stands on this like ridiculously hot August day, like overprotective helicopter moms do. And there was like this little flicker in my right ankle that I just happened to notice that day. And when I went for my annual physical, maybe like 2 months later, it was still there. And I said to my GP, I was like, what is this? She was like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm sure it could be stress. It could be low potassium. It could be a pinched nerve. She called it a benign nuisance. She was like, more often than not, it's a benign nuisance. It'll go away. Just do your best to ignore it. But then it never did. And when we were in like lockdown, we would sit and watch movies with the kids, and I would notice my big toe on the same foot would just wag. We called it a wag. It would just kind of like rhythmically tremor. And I thought, like I'm stressed. My kids are stressed. They were both in 8th grade and 10th grade, and they were missing their friends. And I thought, we're just under tremendous pressure here. And that's what's causing it. But then I couldn't really see a doctor. I did a couple of virtual appointments, but nobody actually physically saw me until the summer of 2021. And that was the first time I've told the story a million times. Anyone who's listening to this is like, we know, Allie, but I had an ocular migraine and I lost peripheral vision, which had never happened to me before. And we were going out to dinner, one of the few times we'd been out to dinner in however many years. And I opened the car door and it smacked me in the side of the temple. And I never even saw it. Like I didn't see the car door. And we ended up in the ER because I had this like gash on my forehead. And the neurologist on call came to just like, check and make sure I was okay. And he was like, yeah, I think you're fine. That was probably just ocular migraine, blah, 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 blah. But tell me about the tremor. And I was like, what tremor? And he was like, tell me how long your foot's been doing that. So that was the first time I saw him. But still 2 more years. I had 2 MRIs, a CAT scan, all to rule out whatever
Worse
was happening in
stuff.
my brain.
Right.
And I heard you talk about this with Mickey, but there are no, there's no definitive tests other than what we call the DUI. Nobody did that until fall of 2022. 2018 to 4.5 years later was the first time that anyone said Parkinson's to me,
Wow.
which is crazy
Wow.
now looking back. But yeah, a very common story I've heard over the years and I think, and I don't know if this is the case for you, but it wasn't that I didn't think they believed me, although I did get it's probably anxiety pep talk that I'm sure you got too, which by the way, even if these symptoms were brought on by anxiety, like it's not like any of us could have gone home and been like, all right, well, I'm just not going to be anxious anymore. Like,
Right.
okay.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, let's just say hypothetically, all women were so anxious we caused these diseases, like still got to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I did get a couple of those. Like, it's probably just your anxiety. You're like, okay. And I started to believe it, to be honest with you, because every
Sure.
test said I was fine,
Right. 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 That to me was a really like a big fact that I had to really chew on to accept was that there was no like definitive, yes, you have this, even though
Mhm.
it's like, yes, I have this.
Yeah.
It, it I mean, I felt incredibly relieved when I was diagnosed because I knew something was so wrong and I couldn't really articulate it or figure out how to fix it on my own. So there was like a very deep sense of gratitude that I was diagnosed, but it also like secretly still gives me some weird hope that maybe that means I can heal it in some universe, which I know sounds crazy and feels crazy.
My therapist and I talk about this a lot that, I say sometimes am I in denial? Because I sometimes believe, and like you, my medicine is still pretty effective, although it feels like I'm sliding backward down the hill a little bit on that. But, I said to her, I have this weird belief that I'm going to be okay, that maybe all my progression will be so slow that by the time I'm 80, I'm still fine. And my therapist is like, is that a problem if I'm in denial? And she said, not as long as you're doing all of the things that you need to be doing to take care of yourself. So stay in that bubble of belief that you're going to be okay if you're working out, if you're taking your meds, if you're mentally taking care of your emotional state. If you're not doing all of that, if you're ignoring it, then yes, you're in denial. If you're doing all of those things, then you're just sort of in a hopeful state. And she's like, and there's nothing right. There's nothing wrong with that.
Wow,
So
that's so powerful.
that's the way I take it. Maybe you and I will be the ones whose progression is so slow that we're okay until we're 80, or maybe not. but
Right.
but we can hold on to that hope, for as long as possible, as long as we're taking care of ourselves, I think.
Well, to me, that like the magic of that statement, and I love your therapist for like breaking that down for you, and that's very inspiring to me. I remember many years ago, I was going through like I guess depression. Just to call it what it was, and I used to dance all the time, which was another big like alarm warning sign that something was wrong because I couldn't dance. I couldn't connect my body to my movement. But for years, ever since I was a little kid, I danced all different versions. I was into ballet when I was little, and then I became I'd be the first or only person on the dance floor at any party. I just loved dancing. And many years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I went to a dance class with one of my favorite teachers, and we got a coffee afterwards. And we were talking about my mental state and how I was feeling and this, that, and the other. And she said that she had gone to see a doctor about some stuff at one point, and the doctor said to her, I have an important question for you. Do you want to get better? And that really stuck with me at that time of like, there is a choice about wanting to get better. And it doesn't even matter what anyone is plagued with. It's that choice of being able to like, okay, am I going to commit to doing the parts that are proven to work to at least keep this thing at bay for a while,
Hmm. Hmm.
and choose to put my heart and my hope into that, is terrifying and also exhausting sometimes, but also for me, I have found is sort of the only way to do it because the alternative of like feeling doomed
Hmm.
is just like I can't operate from that space. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I can. Trust me, I can.
Yeah.
I can very, very quickly, and so I have to it's kind of like that's the life or death for me is like, am I gonna slide into this doom headspace of fear of the unknown because it's still the fear of it's still unknown.
Hmm.
Or am I going to choose to do what it's gonna take to at least feel like, well, I'm doing the best that I can with what I've got?
Yeah. Tell me about your reaction. As I said at the top, Molly is a very accomplished makeup artist. She's got incredible clients, Reese Witherspoon and Maya Rudolph and Natasha Lyonne and our mutual connection, Mandy Moore, and more amazing people. But tell me about your reaction to finding out and how it affected your career. Has it affected your career? Have you been able to sort of overcome that?
Well, I was really, really scared when I first found out and I didn't tell anyone for a good chunk of it until it was like eating me alive. And I was like, forget it. I can't keep this secret. And my kids can't keep this secret. And it was just a drag. Secrets are a drag anyway, unless it's
Hmm.
like a surprise party for someone you love. This did not have surprise party energy. So I was really, really scared. And a big um, part of my job is to nurture and care for my client. They're the center of the room, and there's a bunch of us that are there to nurture and take care of them. And so I was really, really scared to share that this was going on for me because I felt like, oh, I'm probably going to get clipped right away because there's not enough space in the room. It inherently is me not doing my job if I suddenly need thought and care and attention, which sounds harsh about the business. It's not. It's just it's what the job entails, right? That's the point. We're all there supporting the person. And even though in those rooms there can be a very supportive, loving nature to all of our relationships, and a lot of like emotional conversations take place in those rooms, but for me it felt like having this possible physical
Mhm.
issue was going to be like the deal breaker, that people would be like, oh, can Molly handle it? Oh, can Molly last the day? Can Molly still put on my, individual lashes to make them look natural, or is she going to be a mess? And I think a lot of that had to do with me not really knowing yet what I was going to be, how well the medicine was going to manage
Mhm.
my symptoms, and was I going to be able to like drastically change how I dealt with stress? Was I going to be able to drastically change? Like, oh, I'll be fine with 4 hours of sleep. Like, no, I need the 8 to 10 if I'm going to operate and do well. Like
Right.
all those lifestyle change commitments that we have to make if we want to work well with this diagnosis or whatever.
And is it still on just one side for you?
Yeah, the shaky is when I feel it is on both sides, and yeah, it's not really on either side anymore. It's
Yeah.
sort of the the when I feel this, it's mostly like when my medicine's wearing off that suddenly I'll be like, "Oh, I feel a little weird," or I'll get almost like a little dyskinesia in my leg will like start to kind of twirl a little bit.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what time is it? Oh, it's time for my medicine. Right. So I
Yeah.
start to feel that in my body. But it's the parts that are a trip is like if I haven't gotten enough sleep
Molly, hold
or
on one second. Speaking of surprise party, I invited one of our friends to join us. Hold on one second.
oh my God, I'm excited. My God. Are you joking? Are
How are
you
you?
joking?
Hi, Molly. Hi, Allie. How are you guys?
Mandy Molly just said, as if on cue, I love surprises. And I was like, well, do I
My
have one
God.
for you?
That is unbelievable. You're the cutest.
Welcome,
You're
You
the
missed it.
Mandy.
cutest.
We love you, Molly. When you said yes to doing this, my first contact was to our mutual friend amongst all three of us, Alyssa Friedenberg, who, for those who don't know her, her and her family are like my family, and I worked for her dad for 20 years, and they are huge in brain health. They are Alzheimer's advocates. Mandy has generously given her time to working with us in the past on women's brain health issues and is one of Molly's clients. So I called Alyssa and I said, how do we make this happen?
Yeah, it was like the perfect Venn diagram of all of the crossover. And I love
Exactly.
Molly so dearly. I'm like anything and everything, like any excuse to be even in a virtual room with her, I'm game for.
I love
She
you.
she's
You're such a
you're like a
sweetheart.
unicorn, Molly. You're just so sweet and kind and still not jaded by any of what you just shared about your life over the last few years. It's truly amazing.
Molly is a unicorn. And I feel like every single person who's lucky enough to come in contact with her and cross her path, and those of us who are undoubtedly the luckiest to have their faces touched by her glorious hands and her like incredible artistry, everybody will say the same thing. There's just like there are a ton of talented people out there and a ton of talented people in Molly's field in particular, but I think the, like, special genius that like, there is this, like, undeniable, hard to sort of qualify energy that Molly brings that the second I met her, and I was lucky enough to meet you, Molly, I met Molly in a totally different iteration when she had her clothing line, MRS. We met each other in New York. Molly was, like, this is pre, like, super concentrating on makeup artist days, right, Malls? And she was in
Yeah.
New York and she had this like badass studio and she was making like the coolest clothes and they were sold at Barney's for, those of us old enough to remember Barney. And like all the cool kids were wearing them. And I remember seeing like Reese Witherspoon in People magazine wearing this like MRS dress to a premiere. And I was like, what is that? And then I got to wear it for like some sort of People magazine shoot. Anyway, I ended up meeting Molly by happenstance because she was the designer. And then not that long after, somehow we got into contact and got to work with each other in this totally different capacity when she was a makeup artist and she was out in Los Angeles. And Molly, you were just this like magical being. Like the way she does your makeup and she touches your face is like the way she sort of just faces everything in life. It's just like it's with such optimism and like also super pragmatic, also super realistic, but like there is this like we're gonna figure it out kind of energy to everything that she does, even if it's something as dumb as like I'm breaking out, like what do I do? It's like it's all good. We're
Well,
gonna
I
handle this
I asked
together.
her
I
right
feel
before
like
you
that's
joined
who
us.
Molly.
I asked her right before you joined us, Mandy, what she was most concerned about when she was diagnosed with Parkinson's and how it would affect her work. And I actually thought she would say, her ability to stay steady and still continue to do the craft of makeup. But actually, what she said was that her concern on days when she's doing events or getting someone ready for an event is the person that she's working with. And she didn't want to disrupt the care and feeding, if you will, of the person who was getting their makeup done. And it just speaks to you, Molly, about like your first concern isn't sort of about your own abilities or about yourself. It's about how your presence in the room in light of this diagnosis affects people around you, which I think just sort of says it all.
You're so right. Yeah. I mean,
We're gonna make Molly. We're gonna make her
yeah,
cry.
somehow
It's coming,
Molly's
Molly. It's
speechless
coming.
right
I see
now.
it. I see it.
Are you guys joking? This is insane. First of all, the unicorns, you're the president of the
No,
unicorn
you
existence.
are.
Yes,
I'm just a
yes, no.
Agreed.
disciple of yours.
No way. Okay, so it takes one to freaking know one, and I am so honored and touched that you would even take time out of your insanely busy life. Beautiful mama of three gorgeous children, incredible talent, constantly working, brilliant, beautiful human being that you are. It's just so meaningful to me. I'm not going to lose it, even though you guys are trying to trap me into a losing it situation.
No, you just got to absorb it all. You got to take it all.
You
You
Thank
got to
deserve
hear
you
it.
it.
so much.
You deserve
Thank
it,
you so much.
obviously. And so, you guys, I think one of the more recent things that you guys have done together was that Vogue shoot, Mandy, that you had, which stunning. What other, have you guys ever done any other events that you love so much together?
We have
Well, we've
worked,
done a lot.
yeah, like
It's been like 20 plus years that we've
Wow.
been
yeah.
working, and so there's been a lot of I
Yeah, it's
mean,
hard to distill down. I mean, I feel like I've been so lucky that Molly's been a part of like so many different chapters of my life and of her life. And I've watched her become a mom and now her kids are all almost grown, which is just so crazy. Like I remember each pregnancy and now, two of them are off in the world almost as like full grown adults. And that is such a crazy, crazy concept. And yeah, I feel like it's less about the markers of like events and whatnot that we've done together. It's that like we're still in each other's lives like this far down the road. And, through marriages and divorces and huge curveballs that life throws us, like the fact that we can still be sort of touchstones for one another. Molly's a hard one to pin down too. She's so in demand. She's
Yeah.
so incredible at what she does and so many people want to work with her. It was like there was a while there that I was just like, I'm not even going to ask because I know what the answer is. And it's not Molly, obviously. Like it's just hard when you're booked and busy, you're booked and busy. But I always know that like no matter what, we're still always going to find a way to find each other and be in each other's lives.
It's beautiful. You guys have
I concur.
a
I
beautiful
concur.
friendship. And I think I was saying earlier that one of the things that's so vital to people who are facing something like we both are is having representation of people that continue to do their life and don't have to shrink and disappear because of what's happening to our brains. And I think that Molly, just above and beyond all of the incredible work you've done and the incredible human you are, just sharing your Parkinson's story with the world is so meaningful to people who are getting diagnosed right now, who are saying, oh my gosh, my life is over. And now they have a visual representation of a beautiful celebrity makeup artist still working and how important that is. And I don't know if that was, even in your conscious when you came sort of out with it, but it's a really important piece.
Thank you so much for saying that. I definitely, like we touched on a minute ago, that it was so hard to keep the secret. That's how we were saying that before you jumped on, Mandy. I was saying that secrets are the worst unless they're a secret, like for a surprise party. And then Allie surprised me with, but yeah, I was so stifled by the secret of it. And I'm such a type of person, and Mandy can attest to that. I walk in the room and I am so like, wear my heart on my sleeve. What's going on? Oh, let me break it down and tell you everything that's going on in my life, maybe to a fault, even sometimes. I am a little bit of an oversharer, even. And so it was like the pendulum swinging to like, how are you, Molly? I'd be like, fine, like holding this crazy truth inside my body. And I finally was like, I guess I just have to take it as it comes. Like, if this is the end of this version of my career, I'll pick up the pieces and figure it out. But gratefully and thankfully, it hasn't been that. It's the people that love me and trust what I do. No, I'm gonna keep it in. The people that love me and trust what I do. It seemed to still, thank God I'm still able to do it. It's like a miracle every day that I'm able to do it. But so far so good. So and maybe I'll bring in, like, when I get really shaky, I'll bring in some like new fashion of like, real twitchy eyeliner or something. I'll
Start some
like
new
make it,
trends.
I'll make it fashion.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm just so appreciative of you, Mandy. I know you're crazy busy with 3 little kids and your career and everything that's going on. But like I said, Mandy has been at the forefront of women's health and specifically women's brain health for a while. I don't know how many people know of all the incredible things you do, Mandy, for rising up and raising up women's voices in the health space. And I am just so appreciative of it because we need more people speaking out on it. Obviously, lots of us younger women, we'll call ourselves young women, younger women are getting diseases like this. It's not just a disease of old age. It's not just one that affects old men. And so we appreciate you raising that issue and elevating that too.
Well, I'm appreciative of the conversation being had in general. I think, like you touched on, just simply representing for everybody out there. I mean, just the spectrum of folks where the issues like this are. I mean, women's health obviously is affecting all of us women, but it's really important to just for people to not feel like an anomaly and not feel alone and understand that these are issues affecting women of all kinds of different ages and stripes and yeah, I'm happy to use whatever little corner of the world to like my platform to try to draw attention and again continue those conversations as well. But anything for Molly, I love you dearly and I'm so proud of you and proud of the way that you carry yourself in the world, and we're so much, the world is just so much luckier to have you in it, and thanks for letting me pop on and just spread the love.
I love you so much. You're
I
a
love you
freaking
too.
beautiful person. I can't even, I'm gonna punch you in the face when I see you next time.
Well, you guys go have the rest of your very important conversation. I'm just happy to pop on and say hi.
Andy, love you so much.
Bye.
Are you kidding?
I got
And,
you, Molly. I got
oh my
you.
God,
I
she's
mean,
such a wonderful.
we had to make it happen.
She is the sweetest. That is so, I
Yeah.
had no idea that was even in the possibility of the realm of that. What? I'm
Love a
like,
good surprise. I love a good
you got
surprise.
me, girl.
No,
You got me.
so Alyssa's dad, George, has been my boss in several different iterations and is my mentor and just a huge presence in the neurodegenerative space. I was working for the organization that he and Alyssa's mom, Trish, started, called Us Against Alzheimer's, actually, when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I had been, ironically, a brain health fundraiser for a decade at that point. And Mandy was the honorary chair of a women's brain health campaign that we were doing called Be Brain Powerful. And I was actually planning a huge gala that she was supposed to come to in person. And then in COVID, we switched to it being virtual, which anyone who's ever planned an event in person knows that a virtual event is not, it's a completely different beast and it literally felt like I was going to die in the middle of it. I was working 15 hours a day, script writing and trying to figure it all out. And I'll never forget that day of that event that Mandy spoke at. I just sobbed because I couldn't feel my arm. I could not feel my right arm, and I was having trouble making the keyboard click, and I was like, something is wrong with me. I remember Mike, my husband, picking me up from the end of the event, and he was like, "Why are you so upset?" He was like, "It was a great event. It raised millions. Da, 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 da." I was like, "I can't feel my arm. Like something is wrong." That was just, still took me 2 years to get diagnosed, but so it's a full circle moment with Mandy because she literally has done so much in the wake of her role on This Is Us to help elevate neurodegenerative diseases and women's health in general.
She's such an ally in so many ways
Yeah.
and continues to be. She really is a unicorn. It's nice that she called me a unicorn, but she really is. I mean, the way that she has done her life and her career and her family and the person she is to her teams, working in that orbit with her. She's such a special, wonderful, supportive, loving person. I have been really lucky. I mean, I started doing makeup when I was 16 years old. So I've been in this, sort of galaxy of work for a long, long time. And I've really worked with some of the most incredible people. I'm in constant awe of their talent, their contributions to the world, their um love in the inner circle. It's I've been really, really lucky.
And I think, I think reinvention is such a huge piece of facing a disease like this that's progressive because we don't know what's coming. We don't have a roadmap. We don't have, I mean, we know, I guess technically there's stages, but it's so different from, I'm sure your experience with your daughter and cancer. And I've had loved ones. I actually had very early stage thyroid tumor. And so the experience with those is sort of like, you are this, and this is what your path forward looks like. And with Parkinson's, there's just not, it's so different for everybody. The progression is so different. And I think reinvention is the way I keep sort of looking at this. I had to give up my career. I loved planning events. I was good at it. I did it for a lot of stars and I got to be in fancy Hollywood homes and, I really loved it, but I couldn't, the stress was just too much and the technical pieces of it I couldn't do anymore. And now I'm doing this. And so I think even if you're unable to do makeup in the way that you are doing it now, someday you will reinvent. You will find some other creative way to still put yourself out there in the world and make an impact. I have no doubt.
Thank you from your mouth to God's ears.
You will. You will. You
Thank
will.
thank
That's
you.
part of this journey. And I think that's, in part why I wanted Mandy to come today is for people to be able to see that you don't have to give up. That this is a life sentence and an unfortunate life sentence, but it's not necessarily a death sentence. And I think if you keep, pressing forward, you'll find ways to continue to be part of society. It's just really hard to sometimes motivate to do that. I speak from personal experience on that. But
Totally, totally. I think that was kind of our also mutual friend, Brian Roberts, was one of my first Parkinson's buddies, if you will. Like, I was connected to him through another mutual great friend, etc. And he was the one that was like, "This is not a death sentence." And it was so important for me to hear that and
mhm.
to really get that and embrace that truth. Because again, going back to that sort of like doom's view, having that lens, it's terrifying to think, and so many people are living with those types of truths and diagnoses. And I do think that's one of the most important things for anyone who's entering a diagnosis of Parkinson's is to know that it really truly is not a death sentence. And obviously, it is so very different for each person, which I actually find kind of challenging.
Mhm.
It's hard for me to see other people and the stages that they're at. I like immediately become a little like self-involved and freaked out. Like, oh my God, is that going to be
Mhm.
me? Is that going to be
Mhm.
me? Is that going to be me? And so I try to be open to it as much as I can, but that's been part of my like, because my instinct is to like let me dive in, let me join every group, let me be a part of it. I kind of have to like nurture myself a little bit and go, well, you're still processing this information and processing how you want to do your life. And but anyway, yeah, Brian was the first one that really pointed out like this isn't a death sentence. There is a way to live well with this, and you just have to kind of be committed to doing that.
I will say, so I'm on the Michael J. Fox Foundation's patient council with Brian. And the first meeting that I was included in, I walked into the room and it's literally like a cornucopia of Parkinson's symptoms, right? It's like from one end of the spectrum to people in the room that, like me, at that point, were not symptomatic at all. And I was super emotional. I was just, it was overwhelming. And by the time I got through those 3 days, I realized actually, for all the physical manifestations of it and how sort of overwhelming that felt in that moment, learning how brilliant and accomplished this group of people were, I was like, damn, I'm impressed that I'm in this room.
Right,
I
right,
was like,
right.
these people are like brilliant, accomplished surgeons, researchers, authors, television producers. And I was like, all of a sudden I felt like the only thing I had in common with any of them was that I had Parkinson's. I was like, how did I
Right.
end up here? But yeah, it
Amazing.
takes time. And I think, again, to your point, it's such a spectrum. And so you have to come at it when you're ready. And when you're ready, you will be ready. And not everybody has to do advocacy and not everybody has to do this. I really just appreciated the way that you put yourself out there and are holding yourself out, whether you mean to or not, as an example for people to follow.
Thank you so much. I that nothing makes me feel more seen and happy to know that there's any bit I could do for any human being on this planet to make them feel, not othered for whatever their experiencing is, whatever their experience is. I so deeply depend on my community of friends and family and my relationship with my faith. It's so important to me and for my success that I absolutely want to be an example for anyone that, we got this.
We got
Even on the
this.
days where we don't got this, we got this.
We got this. Yeah. You're exactly right. And we all are in it together and we are someday there will be a cure and until then we'll just soldier on. But thank you for being with me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for absorbing the surprise. Thank you for setting it up so perfectly with your talk of surprise.
That was wild. Absolutely wild.
And I
Thank
know we'll
you for
stay in
having
touch.
me.
But feel well. And I can't wait to see more photos of your incredible work. And I'm going to just keep studying them and trying to learn from your ways. Makeup is so
Well, you
different than when I learned how to do makeup. My daughter comes home from school and she's like, Mom, what are you doing? I was like, we don't do it that
well,
way anymore.
you've done a great job. Whatever how
It's
to's
just
you're
because I have a
watching is working.
21-year-old daughter who literally tells me what to do. Otherwise, I'd have no clue.
I just sent a couple names of actors to my agent that my daughter's best friend last night was like, "Have you ever worked with this guy? Have you ever worked with this girl?" And I was like, I rely heavily on the kids telling me who the relevant people are that I should be looking to work for. So
Yes,
thank God for the 21-year-olds in our lives. Seriously, we desperately need them.
I know.
But
They
Allie,
keep us
before
in
we
check.
go, I
Yeah.
just want to say again, thank you so much for doing this, for launching this podcast. I so appreciate your vulnerability that you put out and your honesty and your fears and your example of pushing through all those things. Like talk about being an example. You are killing it. And I think it's awesome and every conversation you have is awesome and I feel really lucky to be part of your community. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining me. And I will be in LA. And when I do, we will go have coffee, drinks, whatever.
Great. I like both.
All right. Thanks. I will see you soon.
Bye, Allie.
Bye.
Thank you.